We're excited. This is our second interview we've done. We just did one with your dad and my dad, talking about their experience together as cleaners. But today we want to just do specifically an interview with Eddie to talk about kind of how we got started, and we really want to dive deep into the rug side of things. Why? For those of you who don't know, our company's kind of got two separate wings, I guess you could say. One is residential and commercial carpet and tile and grout and upholstery and that whole thing that like a lot of people do. But then we've got a separate part of the business that's all about rug washing and rug cleaning. And we got the facility we're in today. If you're sitting here and you're watching today, this is our facility located in Asheboro. We wash a lot of rugs here. And yeah, it's just a little bit about how he got to where he was at today. So without further ado, Eddie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just start out with your name and your business, and a little bit about how you got started.
All right. Thank you for having me. Eddie Von Cannon, business is Able Carpet and Rug Cleaning in Asheboro, North Carolina. Actually got started in 1980. A lot of different moving parts to the business as to how I got started, but originally I was working at Georgia Pacific second shift. And there I met a gentleman named Furman Green, who is Todd Green, who's a member of the group, his dad. And Furman kind of was an inspiration to me, and I began to share with him how I wanted to be in the cleaning business, and he encouraged me and even gave me some ideas and some work. And along by that time, I had a cousin, his name is Johnny Lamb. He had started a cleaning company, and it was actually called Able Cleaning Service. And he knew that I was working second shift. So he called me and said, "Hey, how about part-time work? You need some extra money." I said, "Yeah, doing what?" And he said, "Mainly cleaning carpet." So I would work for him a couple of days a week, just doing cleaning carpet and upholstery. And then it was from there that I got the bug. I just thought, wow, this is something that I really want to do. I loved it. And so I approached him in 1982 and asked him, would he sell me his business? And he was just beginning his career path as a consultant, actually, to the retail side sector businesses. And so he sold it to me, and from there, we just went through a lot of different changes, a lot of different things we did. But that was when, in 1982 is when I actually owned it myself. We changed the name of it from Able Cleaning Service to Able Carpet Cleaning. So that was 1982.
Wow.
And how old were you then?
23.
23, okay, so you're pretty young.
Yeah, very young.
Yeah. Now, why did you feel, because at the time you were working at Georgia Pacific, like you said, so whenever you decided, so it was a few years later, right? So you actually owned the business, and then you continued to do it part-time, correct?
Right, I did, up until 1984.
So in 1984, that was the year where you said, I'm making the full-time, that's when you made the jump.
Made the plunge, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
what was your reason behind that, your biggest reason where you said, I want to do this?
I think there were two reasons. One, I was looking at my job at Georgia Pacific. I was so tired of being a nighttime person, second shift person, and I saw no way to be on first shift, looking at how their order was that you got a first shift job there. I could have worked there 20 more years and still been on second shift.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't like the idea of that. Secondly, I think more importantly, I really believed that I was supposed to be in the cleaning business. I believed it with all my being. And I thought, okay, we got to take the plunge sometime. So of course I cashed out my stock and all the money I had in Georgia Pacific, and used part of that to help get started in the business. And had a little bit of cushion, so if things didn't go too well, I could have used some of that money. But we instantly picked up business. I mean, we picked up janitorial business very, very quickly. We got up to 17 accounts we had. Plus I was cleaning carpet, cleaning windows, and
Cleaning anything you could clean.
Anything that can be cleaned.
Anything to make money.
Anything to make money.
Yeah.
And window cleaning was obviously the most profitable thing in the world. It still is.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because it's just very little. I mean, there's no overhead.
It's distilled water, rubbing alcohol, and white vinegar, and you're in the cleaning business.
Wow.
You're in the window cleaning business. little bit more than that, but, and there are guys out there making $1,000 a day cleaning windows right now at 75% profit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you do a little bit of everything.
What were some of the hardest things early on when you look back? What were some of the early struggles that you had?
Well, just the pressure. I mean, the pressure to provide for a young family. You know, we had, at the time I left Georgia Pacific, I had 2 children, young children. Patrick came along in '86. So there's a lot of pressure there. I mean, and you, and I think the other thing was I didn't have a business degree. I didn't have that background in education like so many young people do today. They come out of college and they're prepared and they're equipped to do any number of businesses. And me, all I knew was hard work. I mean, my first job was my dad waking me out of bed when I was 7 years old and saying, you know, I wasn't gonna lay around all day in the summertime.
Yeah.
And he went and got the lawnmower and cranked it up and said, here's how you're gonna do it. And when you get through with that, weed the garden and hoe the garden. And so I did have a very strong work ethic.
Right.
And a strong, you know, desire to succeed, but I didn't have the formal education in business.
And that's something I kind of want to touch on, which I think is really, I see a lot, and that's still true today of a lot of carpet cleaners. When you look around the business and you see guys that get into the business, one common thing that you see, and I think Seth sees it a lot too with people in a lot of these groups and stuff, is they will start a business without any real, I mean, they've got, even if they know how to clean and they're willing to work and they got the work ethic, like you said, the business side of things, like sometimes they'll start getting in and next thing you know, it's kind of, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to say spiraling out of control, but it gets going pretty fast and they don't really know how to manage. And, you know, so that's a good point, I think, for a lot of people is like, okay, you know, I got all this business, but then it's like, well, there's a lot of things that come along with that you got to know.
You know, all this money coming in and then they...
Yeah.
Well, in 1986, if you want to go that far, you know, with 3 small kids at home and a guy that doesn't come from a business degree but knows how to work hard, I'm not looking at profit and loss and figures.
Yeah,
I'm looking
at
what I have to do today to pay
pay your bills,
pay the bills. So I remember the first time someone asked me if we could do construction cleanup. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it for sure. Didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
But I took the contract and we did it for years. I mean, it was good money.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we were doing, as I said, we were doing everything else. We were doing janitorial, stripping and waxing, window cleaning, carpet cleaning. I mean, we were known for a little bit of everything for a while.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you from when you started your business to where you felt like you were starting to figure it out, the finances, how everything meshed together to make it a successful business?
I would probably say that was, I mean, but the first 8 or 9 years, it was all about just getting the business, getting the business to come through the door. And it was probably in the early 90s before I really realized there was more to it than just the work.
Yeah.
You know, you had to figure out your price points and you had to make X amount of dollars per hour and you had to know what your costs were. But I'd like to give a plug in right now for the IICRC, which is, I know a lot of people don't see the necessity of that, but when I got involved with the IICRC and Mid-South Professional Cleaners Association, those 2 things helped me to see things differently because I was around incredibly successful people, and within Mid-South in IICRC you have everybody from rug washers to you have restoration guys, you have carpet cleaners only, you have a lot of big companies.
Kind of opens your eyes up.
Opens your eyes to another side of the business.
Right.
And just that's when our world really began to change, I think.
You started seeing the potential in other things.
Started seeing the potential that it could be, and just doing 1 or 2 things very well.
Yeah.
Instead of doing all those things.
Yeah.
So when would you say you kind of hit your stride, and I know you eventually moved out of doing, like you were just saying, doing so many things in janitorial and stripping and waxing and windows and construction, whatever it took, to being able to kind of transition. And I don't want to say necessarily pick and choose your work, but you started to be able to be a little more selective probably, and you started to be able to narrow down your fields. Like tell us a little bit about what aided you in being able to do that.
Well, I think the business, we just, again, if this is from a different perspective, because we didn't sit down with a group of business planners and plan this business out. We just kind of launched ourselves into it. And so we had to go through the process of doing all these different things to figure out what we really wanted to do, what we were comfortable with, and what we could do well. And that was probably 19. And because one of the things we're leaving out here is we had a restoration segment to our business too. For many, many years, we did smoke and fire, water damage. So we had to transition through that to get to the point of knowing we just wanted to be carpet cleaners and rug cleaners. And within carpet cleaning, there was tile and grout, there was upholstery cleaning.
Yeah.
But kind of leaving a little bit out. Of course, you haven't asked me that question yet. How did we get in the rug business? But I'll wait till you ask me that question.
Yeah,
It's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. Okay.
That was like 1996, 7, I would say, if you want to time.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead. I mean, we'll jump right into that. So, yeah, and that was my next question. So that's perfect timing. So, at what point did you just transition into rugs? And tell us a little bit, like, about what year and why, who introduced you to it, what made you see the potential in it, and why you decided, what got you interested in going that route?
Well, I want to go back a few years to 1987. So that's when really, that's what I was saying I was leaving out. In 1987, I went to my first IICRC convention. And also I went to my first Mid-South Professional Cleaners event.
Now, is Mid-South, are they still around?
They are.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I highly recommend that you guys.
He's
go
been
along.
telling me I need to get. He's always like, you need to get Mid-South.
You need to be a part of Mid-South. I mean, right now, the truth, I'm looking at the end of my career.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much a thing for me now, but you guys really would greatly benefit from being in Mid-South Professional Cleaners.
Okay.
So I'm at the meeting in 1987, and everybody's talking, and you're meeting all these really successful people. And I look over against the wall, and there's a guy standing there propped against the wall. And I noticed that he's got a stir stick in his mouth, doing this with a stir stick, like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, there's a guy standing over by himself, but he looks like he's smoking, but he's not. He's got a stir stick in his mouth. So I walk over to him and introduce myself to him, and I notice he has a pack of cigarettes in his pocket that he's dumped out, and he's got the pack full of stir sticks cut off to be like cigarettes.
Wow.
Patrick's heard this story before. But he had just entered into the process of quitting smoking, and that's how he was doing it.
Okay.
Okay.
I got you.
So I introduced myself to him, and his name was Harold Thompson. Thompson Cleaners in Pinehurst are still there, Harold Lane. Harold's got to be 74 this year, probably 73, 74. But I asked him what he did for a living, and he said rug cleaning. And you got to realize in 1987 in Randolph County, I don't think there was a rug.
Yeah.
I mean, there were mats.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know. I don't think I knew what a rug was. And so I said to Harold, I said, carpet cleaning. He said, yeah, well, we do carpet, but we clean rugs. I said, do you mind if I come see what you're even talking about? This is 1987. So he said, I don't mind. So I drove down to Pinehurst, went to Hannah Lane's house, and he had a 3-bay garage on his house, and that's where he did his rug cleaning. And so it was really in 1987 when I was smitten by that concept. But it took many years later because I don't think I saw the potential of it in 1987. So eventually through the early 90s, that kind of light bulb came on, and we just started going around telling everybody, all of our customers, when we were cleaning carpet, that we cleaned rugs. And we were going in a lot of houses that had Karastan rugs and some Oriental rugs and area rugs. And so along about that time, I thought, well, I don't know anything about cleaning rugs. And so somebody told me about Scotty's in Eden, which is right now in the state of North Carolina is the oldest operating rug wash plant in the state right now. So I just got in my car or my van and I drove up there, walked in the door, didn't know any of the guys, walked in, introduced myself, And that's where I met Mr. Q-Cell Scotty Scott, and that's where the name Scotty's come from. His last name's, Scott. Q-Cell was his first name, but everybody called him Scotty. A wonderful gentleman who just passed away this year. But I walked in and told him what I wanted to do, and I didn't know anything about rug washing, so I was going to bring him my rugs. So for many years, the honest truth is, guys, I never touched a rug except to pick it up and take it back to the customer.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotty's washed every single rug that I picked up, and that's along about that time is when I began to see the potential, what really could be made in it. So the short of the story is, about 1996, I'm going to say it is, I was already taking Scotty probably 600 rugs a year.
Wow.
And so I approached him and I said, will you guys come pick my rugs up? I mean, I'm going to Eden 3 days a week and trying to run a carpet cleaning business. So I said, Scotty, I just, you're already picking up in High Point, and will you pick my rugs up for me too? I mean, 600 rugs a year, surely you'll pick my rugs up.
Yeah.
And he declined. And I said, well, Scotty, if you're not going to pick my rugs up, I guess I'm just going to have to do it myself. And he looked at me, and this goes to the other point that we were talking about earlier in a different podcast. He looked at me, and I really know what he's going to say. He looked at me and he said, well, I guess I'm just going to have to help you. To my surprise, to my shock.
Yeah.
And so I got to mention that Bobby, his son-in-law, was actually on the wash floor at the time and actually running the wash operation and their carpet cleaning operation. And Scotty's passed last year, but Bobby, to this day, we're tight. We're close as we can be.
Yeah.
He'd do anything in the world for me, and I'd do anything in the world for him. He's the same age I am. He's looking at trying to work his way out of the business. But every time I would take a rug up there, Bobby would take me over and said, this is how we do this, and this is how we do this. This is what we do. They had no secrets. They didn't care. He was just a generous person and gladly showed me everything that was going on. So that's one advantage that I had. I had somebody that was already in the business that would let me just stand there and watch a true rug washer and watch what they were doing. Second thing that happened was along about 1997, I picked up a disaster restoration company's rug cleaning business. And if you think about this, they were bringing me smoke rugs, wet rugs, dirty rugs, with the qualifier that, well, if you can't clean it, the insurance company's just going to replace it.
Oh, that's good.
That was like, whoa, I see.
So
I don't think you'd ever really told me that. I mean, I knew,
Yeah.
and it was after disaster. I mean, we'll
After
just say,
disaster,
but I mean, and I remember that well as a kid. But like, I remember going with you and stuff to pick them up on the jobs and all that. But like, I don't think you'd ever really told me that part. So that's really cool. So essentially, what you're saying is like you had rugs that if you messed up, it didn't
and I
matter.
don't believe
That's a good deal.
we
Yeah.
moved in our first real place in 1996, and we got that account that year. And I had $50,000-$60,000 a year worth of rug washing business that I couldn't manage.
Right.
I was able to take rugs and wash them at really no risk to myself, because their deal to me was, hey, if you can't wash it, and don't worry about damaging it, because the insurance company will just replace it, and we'll just tell them that it was damaged by smoke and fire.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I was very blessed in the area that I had those opportunities right in front of me to give it to me.
Mm.
And just take a minute about and focus on, you guys talk about this a lot, but relationships. You remember Donnie Holder Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Donnie Holder Jr. still works for After Disaster, and I don't do their business anymore, but Donnie and I are very close. I call him, Donnie lost his dad 2 years ago, Donnie Sr. I called him and talked to him, went to the service, and Donnie was he's just a dear friend, and that's another example of making relationships in this industry. But at one time we were kind of competitors because we had a restoration business.
Yeah.
And he knew that,
Mm.
but he didn't really care. We were serving a need for them, but we still have the relationship even after all these years.
That's good.
So you had, I mean, that was like a great opportunity. So you have, number one, you had a huge account there of rugs, especially for somebody just starting out in it. And like you said, there wasn't the pressure of going to somebody's house and picking up an heirloom rug and, you know, being worried if you don't do something right. So that's pretty awesome. So how long did that go on with after disaster, where you had that kind of relationship?
We had their business for probably 5 years, I would say, and then they stopped bringing me rugs. So I called Donnie one day and I said, Donnie, what's up? Well, the guy that owned it, he thought I was charging too much money, and his name's Lee King, and Lee's a great guy. I have a lot of respect for Lee, but he ran a big business and he was under a lot of pressure to manage the numbers, and he felt like he could get it done less somewhere else, and I respect that, and that's fine, and he did, and no hard feelings. That's just a decision they had to make.
It's part of business.
That is.
Yeah.
So kind of what direction did you go then when you started kind of, you know, I guess what I'm saying is at some point you realized you had to go after the residential sector of rugs, right?
We did, and that just the way that we actually got that started is we told everything that lived and breathed and moved that we were rug washers. I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we would walk down the streets and go into hardware stores and the furniture stores. We would walk into soda shops, and anybody, insurance companies. You know, we wash rugs. We wash rugs. This is what we do, and we just incessantly talked it, you know, and promoted it. We aggressively promoted it. We created a separate brochure that talked about what rug washing was versus, you know, surface cleaning, the difference between, because you can surface clean and wash. You know, what the difference between full submersion washing was and surface cleaning. And we just eventually got knowledgeable enough in the craft where we had very few issues.
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying a second ago, this is kind of, you see so many guys complaining all the time that they don't have any business, but none of them are doing what you were doing, going out there, hitting the streets, knocking on doors. You said everybody you came across that could breathe, you would tell them you did rugs.
Right.
And I mean, that's pretty good advice for a lot of these guys. You know, one of the shows that I like to watch with the wife is Shark Tank. You ever watch it?
Yeah, we do too.
And it's funny, these guys will come on there and they'll say, what's your sales? And say, well, we're really struggling right now. So, okay, what are you doing? Well, we're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's why you don't have any sales.
That's why you don't have sales.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah,
Continue
no,
on.
it is, and that's kind of what we did. And then it was after we actually got the business kind of established, it was after that we began to travel and go to different rug plants, and different people who were doing rugs in different schools that were just solely for rugs.
Yeah.
And so that actually came after we were already in the business. So you'd think you'd do that first, but we didn't. We did it the other way around.
Now, what were you going there for? Just to get some tips, see how they did things?
To learn,
Yeah.
to learn, to grow. I mean, sometime later this year, I'm going out to Cam Melville's place in Omaha, to Omaha Rug Cleaners. And as long as I've been in the business, you know I'll learn something. I'll guarantee you I'll learn. Cam's not been in as long as I have, but he's sharp, and Nate Coots and Paul Lucas and all those guys are brilliant. And so I'm going to go out there and learn something.
So did y'all hear that, listening audience? How many years have you been doing rugs?
Actually 30 solely rugs. Yeah.
30 some years, and he's still
learning.
He's still learning.
You don't know it all.
No, every day.
I mean, it's funny because, you know, you just see with these, we'll just call them carpet cleaners, but you see with these cleaners that, I mean, so many of them, and this is what I think we talked about in the one of the first episodes that we did, is like these guys, the hater episode. These guys, you see them on social media, and it's like they learn a little something about carpet cleaning, they have a little bit of success, and then it's like, oh, we got the formula, we got it, we figured it out, we know exactly what, you know, you can't tell them anything.
No,
I mean, and it's like so many people just shut it down. Once guys have a little bit of success, whatever successful is to them, whatever that number is they hit, or, you know, if it's having 1 truck or 3 truck, whatever it is, and they figure out the mold and they're done. You know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of people need to have their thinking challenged on. It was like, hey, don't be afraid to continue to grow
Yeah.
and to continue to learn. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's the motto of our podcast that we always forget to say.
Yeah,
Never stop learning.
Stop learning.
Yeah.
We don't say that.
Yeah.
I think
That's
I
supposed
said
to be
that
my
at the
job.
end.
Yeah.
No. But so tell us a little bit, and this is going back because I like to think back when I was a kid because these are funny memories. So we lived on URA Street in Asheboro, a little like 1,000 square foot house, brick ranch. I mean, it was tiny.
I remember the outside of it. I don't think I ever.
Five
remember the
of
inside.
us. I mean, this house was small. One full bathroom and a half bath, and we had a carport. And I remember as a kid, you started doing rugs at the house.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You're doing them in the carport.
Right.
We didn't have a garage. We had a carport, just open on all sides and a concrete slab.
That's the first rug I ever washed was actually in my carport on York Street. Yeah.
Yeah.
The very first rug I
Very
ever
nice.
washed.
And tell us the story because as a kid, I had a trampoline. I jumped on it all the time. I mean, this was like in the 90s, probably mid or early mid 90s. So it was probably, you said 96. That year stands out in my mind for some reason for rugs because it just seems like I remember rugs being around a lot then. But I remember a lot of times I'd come home and there was rugs hanging on, drying on the trampoline.
Yeah, so Renee and I, my wife Renee, and I had washed this big Indian rug in the carport that day and extracted it with the truck mount, so it was still quite heavy. And it'd been a gorgeous afternoon in the summertime, and we had that big Indian rug laying on the trampoline. So about 8:15 that night, I said, well, I don't think there's no bad weather coming, and it'll get dew on it, but it'll dry out the next day.
Yeah.
You see how rudimentary my thinking is.
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
So the funny story is that Renee and I were laying in the bed about 3 o'clock that morning, and a thunderstorm comes up, and I'm laying in the bed, sound asleep, and boom, and I wake up, and I said, Renee, it's thunder, and all. So we run out there. I'm in my underwear, no shirt. We're rolling up this great big Indian rug and dragging it in the house, soaking wet.
Wow.
And right the time we got it in, the bottom fell out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how technical.
That's how it was at the beginning.
You got to start somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
So from whenever you moved into the downtown Asheboro location, I told Seth that, what was that, 90 what?
94.
94, okay. So that was a little earlier than I thought. All right, so 94, what was your first rug setup? What did you do in that building that was set up for rugs?
We had a fixed drying area on the left side of the building that was 3 poles that were permanent poles, and PVC, over some metal. And in the wash side, we had it was an old service station actually, so there was a pit there, not a pit that had a lift in it, but just a pit where they would wash vehicles in there. And so that was my pit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had about a 400 square foot slab floor in there, and we had a regular water hose that we used that ran 5 gallons a minute. And you could wash 3 rugs a day basically, maybe.
Yeah.
If you got them, you could get them decently clean.
Uh-huh.
So, but we did have the basics. So what we did not have was a means of dusting or getting the dry soil out. We were still heavily dependent on vacuum cleaners.
Now, what did you do? Did you just vacuum both sides pretty much?
Well, we had the old Eureka sanitaires, and they have a metal bar.
Yeah.
The big round metal bar.
Like a metal beater bar.
And they actually had a metal beater bar you could buy that had no brushes on it. And so you inserted that in, and they had a very large motor on them, and they would do a decent job of beating the back of a rug. I mean, it would just boop, 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 and it would just it's not like the ones today, but you could do some decent soil removal like that. So that's how we were doing the dry soil part of it back then.
Now, and I think, and this is what always, when I have people ask me questions about rugs, this is one thing I always tell them, because I think a lot of people want to look at a certain piece of equipment or a certain way of doing rugs, but really, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I always look at it about, there's a lot of different ways you can get rugs clean, wash them in the process. But like with carpet cleaning, you have like this guy that goes from truck mount, or from portable rather, to truck mount, and it's like this life-changing leap and instantly you can get carpets cleaner, quicker,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's kind of the case with some rug equipment, but I think what a lot of guys miss is it don't matter what kind of equipment you have with rugs, you have to have the knowledge first, right?
You do, and
Because you
today,
can't just
right.
Yeah.
I mean, so today, the way it is today, I mean, you have people buying rug equipment because, well, for one thing, with the Turkish machines, they're expensive, but certainly cheaper than some.
Yeah.
And they teach you the zen of rug washing. They'll sell you a wash tub and 4 or 5 chemicals and tell you you're a rug washer.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really how it works.
You got to get the knowledge first,
You
especially
gotta-
when you're washing. It's one thing if you're doing machine, but when it really comes into you're washing hand knotted rugs, you got to get
when you're dealing in the rugs that we deal in. And this is one of the things I tell guys. I mentor guys in the rug washing business now, and the thing I tell them is know your rugs, learn. I own a whole library of rug books, guys. And most guys go home and they read this, they read that, and I read rug books.
Mm-hmm.
And I did for years. And so study the rugs, and when you're trying to build a rug cleaning business, if you can't talk to your clients about their rugs, they're probably not going to give them to you.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and we're not talking about tufted rugs, machine woven rugs that are a dime a dozen. We're talking about, in many cases, cherished family heirlooms that people have had in their families for 50 to 70 years.
Yeah, because I told you a while back, it's probably 2 or 3 months ago, I sat down and talked with you. I was thinking about getting into it, and I told Patrick, I spent about 45 minutes with you, and you drastically changed my mind just to all the equipment I would need, but mostly the knowledge that I would need.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna put this on the back burner for later on,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
But right now I'm gonna focus on the carpet cleaning and hardwoods and stuff like that, because it's just so much that you can mess up, really.
There is, and when we're talking about hand knotted, right? We're not talking about the least expensive machine made
Yeah.
rugs. You can wet an olefin rug or a poly rug any way you want to wet it, right?
Right.
What are you going to do to it? You can't hurt it. You can inexpensively process a lot of those in a day.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about the Oriole rugs and hand knotted rugs, that's a different situation. There are so many different dyes and things that creep up into that business that you really got to know those things before you just jump into it.
And that's one thing that's blown me away is like some of the interactions I've had with guys that I've spoken with about rugs, and he's forgot more than I'll ever know about rugs.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking to them, and they're talking about setting up their rug washing. They want to set them up a little shop, or maybe some of them have already set up a little shop or already have something that they've constructed, and it might be that, like he said, a rudimentary way to wash. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. Like he's talking about, he started in his carport. But then you get to talking to these guys, and they don't even have the basic understanding of rug construction, how to identify, a synthetic versus, a natural fiber, how to identify, say a wool rug that's machined versus a hand knotted wool rug. I mean, they don't have and I think that's something, if you're out there and you're thinking about getting into rug washing or rug cleaning, however you want to phrase it, you need to at least have that base knowledge down.
Or let me give you another example, okay? Because today's different from when I started, okay? We'll use a member of our group, Philip Wildman. I mean, Philip is doing a great job. He's doing it the right way, because he'll tell you, I don't know everything, but guess what he's done? He's joined the rug room. He's asking questions. So don't be afraid to ask, to learn, to get with people that know what you don't know, and Philip's doing it that way. And he's set up the way he's set up, but we're set up the way we're set up. But I know that he's seeking, he's wanting to learn, he's wanting to grow his business and his knowledge. So he's doing it the way that it should be done.
Right.
Just as an example.
And I think a lot of guys, especially now that there's like turnkey rug setups, I see people all the time on Facebook and on the groups and stuff that'll invest in the rug equipment. And they might know exactly what they're doing, but some of them have a very limited amount of experience in it. But there is, the good thing about today is with social media, there's just a wealth of knowledge out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like with you, where you had to go travel.
I had to travel.
You had to travel to go.
Yeah.
Now the guys can just pick up their phone and, like you said, Rug Wash Room or one of the other ones, or several on Facebook now, and instantly you got people that'll help you. And so there's not, what I'm saying is there's not an excuse to not be, to learn and be knowledgeable.
Right.
So like there's the kid who helps me, he's been able to take IICRC classes for free because there's several on YouTube, like the full 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours videos, and I can send to those until, for the meantime, until he's old enough to go to the actual classes. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying, there's knowledge everywhere. You just gotta search for it.
So what are some, would you say, like, what are some of the biggest challenges of being in when you just look at, just take carpet cleaning out of the equation, just rugs, what do you look at it and you say, man, like, this is a part of rug washing that I could do without, or this is the part that makes it so hard? What would you say that is?
Well, the part that makes it difficult, and this goes back to people who are just getting into the business, right? And when we're talking about hand knotted Oriental rugs, those that come from Iran, Afghanistan, Tibet, India, Pakistan, and all the Western Russian provinces that used to be part of the Middle East, Georgia, Uzbekistan, and all those areas. These are all rug weaving areas, and all the way into Turkey. The thing about it is, as it makes this challenging, is this business of manufacturing hand knotted rugs is not regulated. Nothing about it's regulated. Zero regulation in any of the hand knotting countries. There's no government oversight telling them what they can and they can't do, telling them, guys, you got rugs that are chemically treated with chlorine bleach and sulfur before they come into this country. And if they don't do a good job, and they're antiqued is what they're doing, they're dulling down the fiber, changing colors. If they don't do a thorough job of getting that out, the customer goes and buys the rug and they keep it on their floor for 3 years and nothing's wrong with it, right? It's beautiful, has no odor. They bring it to you, you put water in it, it changes from blue to purple. What'd you do? What happened?
Something bad.
You reactivated the chlorine bleach is what you did, because it wasn't rinsed out.
Wow.
And so, small example of the things that you can, and then knowing which group of rugs are more likely to do that. Which ones are they? That are more likely to do that. So I stress this to guys new in the business: buying a machine, right, or whatever you're going to buy doesn't make you a rug washer, minus the intricate knowledge of knowing which rugs do what. Now, you can't hurt an olefin rug, hard to hurt a nylon rug, but you can mess up a hand knotted rug and mess it up very quickly. So
that expensive.
They're expensive. You got to have good insurance. But what a lot of guys don't know, if your insurance company wants to press it and say, well, how did you clean this rug? What did you clean it with? They're not obligated to cover you if you cleaned it outside of industry standards.
Interesting.
And if you used a chemical that's not approved, you're stuck. You got to buy it yourself. Well, I'm just going to not be honest with them. Well, guess what? They have a forensic, they truly do. Insurance companies have a forensics investigation division, and they can take that rug and they can clip it and run it through a spectrograph and tell you exactly what you put on it, if they want to. So the guys are so much more into this rug washing business than buying a machine. Right.
How many? I know you always tell me this, and it's like I've heard you tell other people this too. Like if you really, and I don't mean just surface get in like some guys get in, but if you're really going to dive into washing hand knotted rugs, you're going to buy a rug. You've told me that before.
Yeah, you're going to buy rugs.
I mean,
you are. Well, let me give you an example. Last year we had, and I'm not afraid to tell stories, but we still don't know what happened to the rug. We had 2 Persian names come in the plant the same week. Now, they weren't owned by the same person, but they were identical rugs. The circa dating on them, they were both probably 45-year-old rugs, not old.
Yep.
They were identical twins, right? So washed one on the slab. It turned out beautiful. We had washed it 3 or 4 times before. The second one turned purple.
Wow.
It turned completely purple. And guys, this is a guy who's been washing rugs now for 35 years, so I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I didn't use anything on it.
Uh-huh.
So, which brings me around to this. You gotta, in the rug washing business, you gotta have an upline. You gotta have somebody over your head that you can pick up the phone and call and say, this happened to this rug. What do you think it was? You know, I know my insurance company is gonna make my client whole, but what happened to the rug? So I reached out to my friend, dear friend, actually, Mr. Robert Pettyjohn over at Pettyjohn's at Wake Forest, and I told him what happened. I reached out to Andrew, his son-in-law. I said, have you ever seen this? I mean, this rug just turned purple. I reached out to Mr. Philman Indian, who's chairman of the board of the Oriental Rug Retailers Association. He's chairman of the board of ethics, who's a very close friend of mine. So I've got an upline. What I'm trying to tell you guys is I've got an upline. So if anything happens, I've got people that I can reach out to. So I reached out to Phil, who's 50 some years knowledge in this business, to Robert Pettyjohn. Nobody could tell me. We don't know to this day what happened.
Wow.
But what we think happened is the rug received some kind of chemical treatment in Iran where it was made before it was left with what we don't know what. And Phil Manandian told me, he said, hey, you wouldn't believe the things that they do to these rugs over there. You never know.
And for people that don't know Phil, and Phil's a friend of ours, he doesn't live far from here, but Phil, he ran his own, he had a rug washing
He
business.
had Manandian Brothers in Columbus, Ohio for many years. And so, yeah, he very much knows what he's doing. And interesting story, how I met Phil was several years ago. I would come in the office about 2 or 3 times a week, and Renee would say, there's this guy wants to know if you're here. He wants to come by and see you. And I said, who is it? And she said, some guy named Phil Manandian. I said, I don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
But what does he want? He didn't say what he wanted. So it turns out what he wanted to do is he wanted to come meet me and see what we were doing to figure out if he could recommend us to his clients, because he now has an appraisal business.
Right.
So
He just wanted to see our operation,
sent me
essentially to see if we knew what we were
if we
doing.
knew what we were doing, and he sent me some rugs to wash to see if I knew what I was doing. And of course, the rest is history. We became very close friends since that time.
So what are some things that guys that are thinking about getting into that and they're considering it? There's guys probably that are going to be listening to this, and maybe they're dabbling in rugs, maybe they're considering adding rug washing to their carpet business. I think very few people just get into rug wash. Most of the time it's carpet cleaners. So what are some things that you would say, hey, think about this, or stop and think, before you do it? What's some advice you would give to people?
Well, I mean, count the cost. I mean, is this really what you want to do? And are you in a market that is your demographic there to support an Oriental rug washing business? And I'm always very careful and we clean every kind of rug there is, but I'm very careful to separate Oriental rugs out from machine-made rugs. So, if you want to be an area rug cleaner, well, then there are thousands of inexpensive area rugs that you can clean any number of ways. But if you're talking about an Oriental rug, hand-knotted products, then you have to ask yourself, are you in a market with a demographic that'll support that?
Right.
And if you're not, then it's probably not a good idea unless you know there's one nearby.
Mm-hmm.
It's typically an Oriental rug plant will service a 75 square mile area. So if you have the business, secondly, I would say go find somebody. Go find somebody that's just far enough away from you that would not mind you coming and learning, and pay them if you have to. But go pick somebody's brain. I mean, get wisdom, get knowledge, get information from people that have it, that are willing to share it, and don't be afraid to do that. Secondly, I'd say go to the Rug Room is a great group. When they have their events, join the Rug Room, go to their events, and they have, they have them out at Cam's place in Omaha. They had one recently down at Michael Musalem's place in Jacksonville. Go, even if you're not even washing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about washing, go to these events and go to these places, open yourself up, tell them what you're trying to do, and these guys are great, helpful people. Find a rug retailer somewhere that you're not trying to get their business, but you just go in and very humbly say, look, I don't know squat. Remember the first time I went into Zaki's, Mr. Zaki's in High Point. Zaki, a wonderful human being. I literally walked in and said, Zaki, I don't know nothing. I just, what can you tell me? And he began to share with me about, certain things about rugs. And I even offered me his business, and I refused to take it because a friend of mine was currently doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want it. I told him, no, I don't want your business. I don't want this. I'm not taking business. I just want to learn something. So go to a rug dealer in another state. If you can't find one nearby you, go just call them up and say, hey, you'd be surprised. Most of this, they're very nice and kind and generous people, and they love to see people who are willing to learn.
Now, why would you say is a good reason for a carpet cleaner to get into rugs?
Well, the biggest reason right now is because when I started cleaning carpets, the average house that I was cleaning in had 5.6 rooms of carpet. The average house now has 1.6 rooms of carpet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less and less carpet. Now I know other guys are making that up by wood, by tile and grout. But the basic point is every home you're going into, you're seeing rugs.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't go into many houses, but I mean, you see a lot of hard surfaces, but very few of them hard surfaces are not covered up by some type of rug.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's a cheap synthetic or even a gun tufted wool rug or whatever. I mean, or all the way to an oriental, but they're covered up with something. I go very few places where they just don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
To show you how that works out in real numbers, when I got into the rug washing business in the state of North Carolina, there were, we'll talk about plants versus shops. Okay, I mean, a garage is a shop, right?
Yeah.
But dedicated rug plants, okay? What I mean by that is a dedicated facility, several thousand square feet or more, that's got equipment in it, that's essentially their thing, is what they do. In the state of North Carolina, there were 3 of those.
Wow.
When we got into it.
Not a lot of competition.
There was Burnson's and Durham, oldest, and they're out now, but if they were still in business, that would be the oldest. They would probably be 80 years old now if they were still in it. There was Burnson's, there was Scotty's up in Eden. Charlotte, Metro, there was not one. The only people there cleaning rugs were dealers who were doing it in the back of their building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Charlotte did not even have a fully operational rug plant until 1997, when Mr. Mike Lynch opened, and Mike was already in the carpet cleaning business, but he put in Gastonia, actually, not in Charlotte, but in Gastonia, Mike actually put in a fully automated system, a more machine rinser, the whole thing. So now, 2021,
It's a lot.
Probably 30. You have 4 to 5 in Greensboro.
Yeah, that's a
You
lot.
have, with actually automated equipment, dedicated automated equipment, you have 4 or 5 in Charlotte. You have at least 3 in Wilmington, maybe 4. At all places, you have 1 in Currituck. I mean, Outer Banks, the guys, I forget the name of them now, but they have all the Central Force equipment. So you look at the number of rug cleaner, and guys, and that's not even talking about the shop guys.
Yeah.
The little guys that are doing them in their garage
or even in between.
Yeah, in between, kind of.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you add those guys into the mix now, there's probably a couple hundred places cleaning rugs.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because there's less carpet and more rugs.
Yeah.
So that's why if you're a carpet cleaner, you should be looking at the rug side of the business.
And I think especially if you're a carpet cleaner and you're walking over, you really see, say you're in that, and it depends on your area, but if you're in that demographic and you're constantly seeing them every day, you're in other words, if you're walking over expensive where, and it don't have to be expensive, but I mean, you're seeing these rugs and people are asking you. I think when you start getting asked, can you clean this rug, and you don't feel comfortable, and it's a constant thing, you
Yeah.
know, where it's like every day you're going in homes and say they've got hand knotted rugs and they want you to clean them, and you know you don't want to do them because you don't feel comfortable to do them, or you feel like you don't have the knowledge to do them. Well, that's where you start thinking like literally every day I'm losing money.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And not saying you have to. I'm not saying like, oh well, you're stupid if you
Or
don't.
at least find somebody you can take them
Yeah,
to.
hey, look, that's another thing,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing for us is like we have a lot of cleaners that bring us rugs
Yeah.
that don't want to do them, but at least like get something out of them.
Yeah.
You know, don't somebody's gonna clean it.
Yeah, well.
I guarantee you. So I think that's a good point. So
Mhm.
anything else?
I was gonna have some pop questions. You answer these kind of not quick, but you know, what was the worst job you ever had? Not necessarily rug, but carpet too. What's one that stands out in your mind? Like,
this
oh
is
man,
easy
this is
for
a customer
me.
I want to mark off for
This
life.
is easy for me. Way back in the day when we were doing stripping and waxing, you know, in the early '80s, we got called by a printing company to, bless his heart, Furman Green actually sent me this job. Who's Todd's dad, who's now deceased, but so I go look at it and it looks like wax to me. I mean, it's just wax on a VCT floor, and they had printing equipment setting on the VCT, and he just wanted me to strip around it and wax it. And so Furman never told me, and I don't know why he didn't tell me, but they had been putting urethane on that floor on VCT. And so I go in to quoted the job. The gentleman that owned it let me in. And within the first 30 minutes, I knew there was a problem because I had gone to stripper full strength and wasn't getting anything up. So I don't think I had a cell phone at that time. So I asked Paul that owned the business. I said, "Can I use your telephone?" So I called for him, and sure enough, he's at home. I got him. I said, "What is going on down here?" "Oh man, I think so and so that worked for me put urethane on that floor last time."
Wow.
So I turned to Paul and I said, "Paul, I don't have anything that'll strip urethane." He got so angry.
Really?
Oh, angry.
Wow.
Angry at me. And, you know, you're supposed to be the floor expert, blah, blah, blah. And he was not going to let me out of it.
Wow.
He said, "If you don't do this job, I'll make sure you never work again in this town." He was so ugly. So we finally got hooked up with a chemical company up in North Asheboro that actually made chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was kind enough to come down there and he said, "I tell you what you need, I'll make you some. Don't breathe it."
Yeah.
Second thing he told me. So I had to wear a respirator. We finally got it to the point, but that was just absolutely sticks out like
Horrible nightmare
just,
job.
I can imagine.
That was probably the worst thing we ever got into.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. What year did you hire your first employee?
1996.
Was it a family member or?
No, it wasn't.
Okay,
It was,
outside.
yeah, a guy named Tim Luther.
Yeah.
Remember
And I
Tim well.
Remember that, yeah.
And has Renee always been involved in the business, or
No.
what year did she come along?
Not always. About 1996, when
Same thing.
we moved into the downtown location, is when I think that's when she finally realized, you know, hey, we got a real business.
Yeah.
Prior
Did
to,
she worked somewhere before?
yeah, she worked odd jobs, you know,
Yeah.
and did stuff like that, but nothing
Okay.
on a career path or anything.
Yeah.
But I think it was probably about that time when she figured out, A, I couldn't do it by myself. I really needed help,
Yeah.
and you know, maybe we were going to have a real business one day.
Mm.
That's a tough thing. I think a lot of guys like trying to wear all the hats, you know, answer the phone, and you do it for a while, and I think until your business, well, some people do it forever, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you get most people, your business gets to a certain point, and you kind of want to have somebody help with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a good time to mention this too, but someone might think, well, if there's that many people cleaning rugs, well, why would I want to do it? Well, you can also you can niche. You know, there's guys that only clean silk.
Mm.
You know, they promote themselves as silk cleaners. There's guys that only clean Navajo rugs, and they promote themselves as, so there's niches within the rug world.
Yeah.
And those of us that are in the rug washing business, we know who it is among us that are niche cleaners. In other words, you know, Nate Coots is a niche cleaner. I mean, he's just a master at problem rugs, and everybody knows that. I mean, you know, so he's carved out a specialty in that, with Navajos and with cotton rugs that bleed and stuff that is not normal, right? I actually took a rug to Andrew a couple weeks ago at Petty John's, and he wouldn't touch it. He said, "I'm not touching it." What it was a cotton rug, an old cotton rug that the dyes were actually, he had a name for it, but I'm gonna say it like they were printed on, because cotton doesn't have a dye site. So, and he told me, he says, if you wash that rug and you get those dyes moving on that cotton, you're stuck. So, those of you that think you don't have to know some stuff to get in the rug washing business, there's a warning.
Oh yeah.
Right there for you.
Yeah. How important is education, not just for rug cleaning, but for carpet cleaning?
Oh, it's critical. It is. I mean, I know guys made it without it. You know, there's guys that have made it, and especially those that are on the apartment side and the commercial side. But you know, the truth of it is, these guys say they have it, but you know, if you had their iPads, you'd find it where they've been at night on these sites learning stuff.
Yeah.
So education's critical, and I always said this: if you think education is expensive, try ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, education is critical in any of these service fields we're talking about. But you know, and setting yourself apart through that education, because now we're not, you know, we don't just clean rugs. I mean, we reweave, we repair, we recolor, we redye, we appraise. We're one-stop shop.
That's good.
So, and we feel like that's a niche for us.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, we know several very old and large rug plants in the state that don't do any of that. They do no repair, they do no redyeing, they do no reweaving, they don't do any appraisals, they don't even offer those services to their client base.
For the new cleaner, what would you suggest they're getting into carpet cleaning? New equipment or a used startup? It's a guy who doesn't have any work at all. He's just like, all right, I want to be a carpet cleaner.
Well, you know, there are guys that are like that have the money to buy new stuff.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
And so there's the lease deals now that are really irresistible, especially for new guys, because they'll lease to a new guy. Financing's a little bit different, but they'll lease to a startup. And so that's hard to resist. But I would caution anybody that doesn't already have a business started. Now, if you're talking about, I'm new in the business and I've been in it 2 years and I'm doing, you know, $70,000 a year, should I buy a new truck now? It's all based on what your costs are to answer that question.
Okay.
If you're going to get into the carpet cleaning business and you have no business to speak of, then surely you want to keep your cost point as low as you possibly can.
Right. I think also what I was going to say too is, you know, there's different people get to the business a different way. So like, you know, I know a guy that, you know, he came out of one business into another business and he brought some of that money with him. And, you know, so if you're going into the business and you have some money set aside to invest in it, and, you know, you're prepared that if you're slow, you know, you've got some working capital there to be able to fund yourself for a while and keep yourself up. But so many guys, especially with carpet cleaners that I see, it's like they start out with nothing. So when you're starting from scratch and it's literally, you know, you see these guys and if they don't go out and clean today, they don't have money to pay their bills. Then in that case, I think, I mean, this is my opinion, like you need to keep it as low as possible,
right?
As cheap as possible. Keep your, you know, monthly payments down, keep everything down. But you do see some people, and it's rare, but they literally, you know, they might save a large sum of money. Well, those people are a little more prepared to go out. And,
well, but to Patrick's point, and this is not who you think I'm talking about, but maybe because this goes back a few years, but I met a guy that owned 5 pizza restaurants. And he just started a pizza business. He just tired of it. Worked it all of his life, you know, and he sold all 5 of his pizza places, and he had money to buy new equipment. and he was buying new everything, new van, he bought, actually he started with trailers. So he bought a new pickup truck, a new trailer, a new unit, everything new, but he had money to invest. And he had money that set back that, slow times came and, but he was an aggressive salesman, so it didn't take long.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take long to build his business. But
Well, if you come out of the business, you have a mind for business too.
Right, yeah.
A lot of times.
All right, this is the last question I have. I was trying to think of how to word it. You got anything while I think about how to word it? Okay.
I'm just listening.
Looking for a chance to buy how to word this question.
Yeah.
Because actually I took it out.
Oh, intermission, everybody.
Yeah, took a 5-minute break. I can't think of how to word it. Eddie, leave us with some closing thoughts here and it'll come to me in a second.
Oh, you're trying to think how to word it?
Well, I had deleted it and then I was like, I don't want to ask that question. And then I was thinking about it just now and I was like, well, how did I have it worded before? So that's probably the better way to put it. But
Well, I would say this too, that over the years I've met many people that have gotten into the rug cleaning business because they heard it was lucrative. The truth is that my friends in this industry that I know, that I respect, the rug washers, let's say, that I know and respect, they're passionate about rugs.
mm-hmm.
Then the money comes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're getting into the rug cleaning business because you're just thinking about the money, it's money, right? You're looking at the dollar and not the entirety of the process you're going to have to go through and grow through to be a good rug washer, then it's not for you. Because yeah, you get, in many cases, I know guys that charge $5, $6, $7 a square foot. I know guys that charge $1.40. And if you're a carpet cleaner, you're charging, let's just pick 30 cents, and you think, my goodness, 30 versus $3. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking at that side of it, you'll miss everything that you need to grow into, you need to know. You'll miss the relationship side of the business, the people that you need to make friendships with. You'll miss all of that if it's just money. If you're just looking at but also what most people don't realize is Patrick and I talk about this all the time. You vacuum, pre-spray, scrub, and clean a room of carpet. Let's just say you're cleaning 200 square feet of carpet. And it takes you how long?
Oh, I mean, do it. So
20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah, 30 minutes.
How long does it take to professionally and properly wash a 200 square foot Oriole rug?
Yeah.
Now really think that through, and then 20 minutes versus an hour. Now for you guys that have the automatic plants where it's auto duster into auto washer into, well, that's a different thing. But if that rug is really, really heavily soiled, you're still going to have to wash it before you wash it. You got to wash it before it goes to the automatic system, right? So you're actually washing it twice. My point is, there is good money in the rug cleaning business, but you don't make 10 times in the rug cleaning business what you make in the carpet cleaning
It's not
business.
like you think. And
It's
there's
not like you think.
You handle that rug multiple times. I mean, it's like when our rugs come in here, a lot of times, I mean, if they've had to be picked up, they're picked up and you're qualified with the customer and look at it and inspect it, and then they get back here and they're inspected again, then they're dusted, and then they're washed, and then they're put in the spinner, and then they come out of the spinner, and then they go to the drying room, and then the fringe work is done, and then they're taken down, and they're vacuumed again, and they're wrapped,
and then you got to deliver.
and it's like that's the process. You keep handling that rug over and over and over again. So,
But see, that's why you charge.
Yeah.
What you charge. That's why
right.
you charge $2 to $4 a square foot.
And it's funny, me and him always talk and laugh about it, and it's like these people that I think I said this to him last week. It's so funny because we'll quote them, price to, you want how much, and we don't get that a lot, but you get that. But those same people that will gig you on paying whatever a foot to wash an Oriental rug, those same people are ignorant enough to pay a guy to steam it or clean it, quote unquote, clean it on site.
Yeah.
They'll pay that guy 50 cents or $1. He'll be done in 10 minutes.
Well, the fact of the matter
and it won't be
is
clean. It's
that
not done anything.
there's a certain company, national company, that charges $1.25 to do them on site. And on average, it takes them 15 minutes to clean a 10 by 12 rug.
Yeah.
So they're making money hand over fist, right?
Yeah.
All right,
But the people aren't getting what they pay, especially on these hand knotted
No,
rugs. You're not
no,
getting any
you
kind
can't.
of cleaning.
right.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would tell you that speaks to the point about why being in it, right? Your customers will sense your lack of passion and your lack of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sense it. And
Oh, yeah.
your clients, they're gonna turn over the olefin rug to you, right? They're gonna turn over the gun tufted rug to you. But when you don't know the basics, and your clients you're standing in a room where there's a 70-year-old nice caucusing piece, probably worth $8,000 to $10,000, and you don't know that, and you don't know what it is, and they ask you how you're going to clean it, and you say we're going to wash it. Well, what does that mean? Well, what kind of chemistry? You got to know these things, because if you don't, your customers are going to know you don't know it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I think I got the question in my mind.
Okay.
We'll come back to it. It's kind of changing topics a little bit, but you see this a lot. We see this a lot in the groups. Carpet cleaners who are struggling right now, what advice would you give them? They're struggling to get work. Then maybe they're struggling because their finances are, all out of whack. But what kind of advice would you give them?
I'll give you the same advice that was given to me a few years ago, and was talking with a local president of the Chamber of Commerce who's now retired. But he said to me a survey of, and this is in the age of Google and the internet and all the social media marketing. He recently surveyed the Chamber. Their number one sales, most productive sales method is what? He looked at me and he said, is what? And I thought, well, surely it's got to be something technical. It's got to be something complicated. It'll be something to do with SEO or something. He's had his hands folded like this. He took his hands undone like this, and he said, here's number one. He said, hi, my name is, and this is what I do. He looked at me and he said, to this day, in the day of Google and all the other things, nothing outproduces that method.
Yeah.
So I would tell anybody that's in that, I think you heard me say earlier that Renee and I took the position that when we started our rug washing business, that if it walked, talked, or breathed, we told it we washed rugs. So my advice is you're going to have to relieve yourself of the fear and the anxiety and get out and knock on doors. And somebody says, well, what do you mean knock on doors? Go to your local downtown. If you're in a metropolitan area, go to a smaller suburb that has maybe 200,000 people, and go to what is considered the downtown and just tell people, talk to people, introduce yourself. No matter how much SEO or Google you got, it's never going to take the place of sales and marketing. Some of the most successful carpet cleaning companies that I know have their own marketing division. I'm talking physical marketing division. They all have the SEO, they all have the internet, but they all have someone who calls on people either via network marketing, right? Network marketing groups. By the way, Patrick can tell you when we opened up our other market in Pinehurst, most successful thing by far.
Yep.
But it still involved that handshake. Going and meeting and greeting people and telling them who you are and what you do. Join a network marketing group. Go to your local downtown. And then I'm going to share a little secret for free. Why would a rug cleaner or a carpet cleaner want to call on an insurance company? I'm not in the restoration business, right?
Right.
But they're always looking for somebody to clean carpet and rugs. And restoration companies are too. So two things right there that probably some marketing guru would charge you $5,000 for is call on insurance companies and call on restoration companies. Those are two really super quick starts for somebody who's struggling in their business and needing more business, because you'll get business fairly quickly. If you go out next week and call on 10 insurance companies and 3 restoration companies, you will get work from them. If you're needing work that bad.
Yeah.
Is it going to be high paying, high profit? But it will be business.
Yeah. It's crucial.
There are not I promise you, you won't find very many carpet cleaners that know that think that that's a potential market. So those are two really good sources right there. So the network marketing, calling on people, knocking on doors, it still works.
Yeah, old school.
Old school.
Yeah.
Some of the best.
That's exactly right. Get overlooked, but still works.
Y'all want to guess how long we've been recording?
I'm gonna say an hour.
An hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
this is gonna be our longest episode.
It's going by pretty quick, I thought.
I think so
Crazy.
too.
I looked 1 minute, it was 20 minutes. The next minute, it was 50.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Time
Yeah,
flies.
that's a good thing though.
Yeah.
Means you have plenty to talk about.
Well, Eddie, we appreciate you taking time to
Yeah,
sit down.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. I
And I'm
enjoy
sure
it.
our listeners will enjoy it,
Yeah.
especially the ones who listen when it comes out. Well, I find that we're getting a lot of people listening to old episodes too. So.
I noticed that too. People are going
Yeah.
back. So, and I'm excited too about adding video. I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a big.
Yeah.
You know,
There it is. Look at the
yeah.
camera.
Oh yeah.
And two, we got listeners in what was the countries? Puerto Rico,
Puerto Rico,
which is
India.
Yeah, India, and there was another country too. I just saw pop up, Canada, and I want to say there was one more, but that may be it.
I
But
think,
anyway,
was it UK? I can't remember.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe I can't
Yeah.
remember. I think it was 4.
Yeah, so we got listeners all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll appreciate the wisdom and advice you gave Eddie, because like I said, Eddie's been in the business for a long time and he's been very successful at it, and he's got a good reputation. How many years in a row have you won Best Cleaner in Randolph County?
As long as they've had it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also took a picture of your.
Because whenever it started, we don't, because we got like a plaque or missing out there or something, but whatever year it started through now, I mean, it's however many years that is,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah, so good reputation. This isn't just some guy off the street we brought in. We got somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, we've been there, done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, Seth.
Never stop learning.
Never stop learning. I like that.
All right, well, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget, if you want to reach us, email us at cleaningprofessionalspodcast@gmail.com. And if you look at the bottom of this description, at the bottom of this episode in the description, you'll find a link to leave us an audio message. Feel free to do that, and we'll catch you on the next one. That's it.
Good deal.
In the books.
Better than in the books.
Get this saved. Perfect. Well,
So
that
how
was
did that go?
Good.
Everything went okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Enjoy it.
professional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the thing about an interview like that is really where do you start and where do you stop?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you
You
started
could
to
go.
start.
You could go on and on.
I mean, we could do a whole nother version or a whole nother series on, people, on other people that have been, instrumental in my life,
Yeah, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you too. And the video is still recording. Who is somebody who influenced you? We'll add that to the video section. Who's the number one person you look at, individual, maybe who's influenced you in this industry?
Well, on the rug side, I'd have to say it was Scotty, probably more than anybody. He was so kind, so gracious, so welcoming, so willing to open up the doors and let me look and let me learn. And then second, I'd say Bobby, his son-in-law, just a kind, good man we're still friends, and I'm still learning. Every time I go visit with him up there, he'll say, this is why this rug did this or does this, or this is what happens when you do this to that rug. And so influencers, positive influencers in that world.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you always find people that inspire you, like Robert Pettyjohn, has always been a big inspiration for me. I have to give a shout out to Wade and Fred Shahadi in Pittsburgh. Shahadi's wearing a rug in Pittsburgh because they've been great friends and great inspirations to me. And that's what I mean by developing relationship with rug dealers in other states.
Yeah.
And
No. What about outside of the cleaning industry, like business-minded people?
I think people like Mike Vernon, Mike is a name that most of you guys don't know. Mike passed away 2 weeks ago, but he owned a
Hardball.
Mikey, we called him. Mikey was just invaluable asset to my life. I mean, we would talk. I'd call a place an order, and we end up talking for an hour and 15 minutes because I'm going through things in my life business, and Mike would say, "You're making it too complicated. It's really not that complicated. Let me tell you, and this is a guy with 50-some years experience in carpet cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys do you know with 50+ years in carpet cleaning?"
Yeah.
So he knew a few things, and he knew things about marketing and things about keeping it simple. So he was always an inspiration, as far as just as a human being, as an individual. He was an inspiration.
Yeah. Now, how much of a help was Renee coming along? Because I was telling Patrick the other day, I said whenever Stephanie started taking over the phone calls, which was very short into the business, because I told her I can't handle this. my average sale ticket went up dramatically just because I'm a pushover when it comes to prices. Like, oh, you sure? Oh yeah, let me do this for you.
Yeah.
Stephanie no, this is what the price
I
is.
see, yeah.
So Renee's not that way. She's like Stephanie.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
like, it's
good.
this, it's this, and if they don't want to do business with us, if they want to take a chance and go somewhere else, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But the cost is what it is.
Yeah.
Another thing about my mom that I always saw was like this is going back several years ago when there was a time where he got hurt.
Oh wow.
And hurt his shoulder, and me and her would go out and run a rug route together, and she was like awesome at sales, like upsells. She was really good, so she would sell them everything we had, you know, where it wasn't just next thing we know, we wouldn't come out of there with the rug wash ticket. We would come out of there with the rug wash ticket, sell them pad, because you know we sell a lot of pad, protector on the rugs, everything.
Yeah. She was so good at it. I actually had to back her down.
Yeah, because he told me like she was so.
She would sell. People would be trying to buy stuff that they really didn't need.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You don't need to protect an old thin carpet.
Yeah.
You know, or in some cases even a poly carpet.
Yeah.
But viscose, yes. But you know. So Renee, that's an olefin carpet. It doesn't need salt water.
She's out there hustling. Yeah, I mean Stephanie it's just been a night and day difference having her do the things. And I was telling not Patrick but somebody else, they were asking me my prices on the upholstery. I said, to be honest with you, I don't even know anymore. Stephanie handles that, and it's a big relief for me. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
I set up the prices and she does it for me, and it's great.
Yeah. So that's big help.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna stop the video
interview
now. That's it.